This is the Hidden Killers podcast with Tony Bruschi.
That it is. Myself and Carol Hughes with you. We're going to be talking today about Letecia Stauch, who's accused of murdering her stepson. Her trial beginning in Colorado Springs right now. Opening statements in this murder trial are beginning. The accusations of the murder go back to 2020. Letecia facing charges for that homicide in Colorado Springs more than 3 years after he vanished. Letecia is 39 now, charged with killing her stepson, Gannon Stauch, who was 11 years old. A nationwide search was launched after Gannon's disappearance in January 2020. Letecia was arrested on March 2nd of 2020, so it took a couple months, in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and Gannon's body was discovered in Florida on March 18th of 2020. She faces 13 counts for allegedly killing Gannon, including first-degree murder, child abuse, tampering with evidence. She initially pled not guilty, but later changed it to not guilty by reason of insanity. Jurors have to decide whether Letecia was sane during the crime and if she knew right from wrong. The 4th Judicial District Attorney Michael Allen told the jury on Monday. In opening statements on Monday, District Attorney Michael Allen laid out what happened to Gannon to the jurors, and we're going to take a listen to that right now. And then we'll discuss what we're hearing just a little bit after. Let's take a listen to that courtroom audio, the opening statements.
January 27, 2020, Gannon's home, located at 6627 Mandan Drive, here in Colorado Springs, Colorado, turned into the stuff of nightmares. In fact, the one place a little boy like Gannon should have felt the safest, his bedroom, turned into, like I said, the stuff of nightmares. That bedroom is, in fact, where he was brutally murdered. The defendant attacked him viciously, mercilessly, deliberately, and intentionally. These are exhibits that you'll see from the doctor down in Florida, Dr. Ignacio, when she performed the autopsy. He'll tell you that Gannon suffered 18 stab wounds to his body, his chest, his back, his head, and most importantly, his arms and his hands. Why is that important? Gannon was fighting for his life, and those were defensive wounds. Next came a crushing blow to his head that was so strong, it fractured his skull like an eggshell. That wasn't enough for this defendant. He retrieved a 9mm handgun, fired it at Gannon 3 times. 2 bullets struck the pillow near him and were caught in the fibers of that pillow. That 3rd bullet entered his jaw, traveled through his head, fracturing his mandible, his vertebrae, hitting his spinal cord, and lodged in the back of his head and was recovered at autopsy. Gannon's life drained from his body, drop by drop. The photo that's on the screen right now is a picture of his bedroom. Same corner where he was in that picture, or where you'll see him in the picture in the bed. Each one of those markers signifies a small blood drop that splattered across his wall. It ran down the corner of his mattress, soaked through the carpet padding, and puddled on the concrete foundation below that carpet. The defendant then took very deliberate action. She decided to hide her crimes from the world, and she took action to hide those crimes from the world. She collected Gannon's bloody and broken body and the blankets and pillow that were near him and shoved them into a suitcase and hid them in the storage unit in that basement. That basement storage unit is right around the corner from Gannon's bedroom. What she didn't know is that she was leaving clues behind in that storage room. That plastic tub that you see in the bottom left portion of that picture has Gannon's blood on it. There was an Amazon box in that storage room that has Gannon's blood on it. The concrete floor in that storage room had Gannon's blood on it. The defendant next decided to clean Gannon's room. Deliberately, intentionally, knowing what she was doing. She scrubbed the walls, cleaning them off. She scrubbed the carpet with scrub brushes that were later found in the dishwasher. Those scrub brushes have carpet fibers in them. They have blood on them. They have Gannon's DNA on them. This is Gannon's bedroom when members of the El Paso County Sheriff's Office first came to the house on January 27th in the evening hours. This is what it looked like. No obvious signs of a struggle. No obvious signs of blood as they walked through the house and through Gannon's bedroom. There were no obvious signs of a struggle or a murder because the defendant had cleaned them up. And also realized she had Gannon's blood on her person. Clothes that she was wearing, likely containing Gannon's blood, based off of how much blood had hit the walls, were never found. Her clothing was never found. These shoes, the defendant's shoes, were found on the washing machine, drying. That reddish rust color that you can see on the soles, Gannon's blood and DNA were found on those shoes. You can see just how much blood she was walking through as she was cleaning up that mess. Took more deliberate action. She collected and discarded other important clues. I mentioned she stabbed Gannon 18 times. The instrument that she used to stab Gannon has never been found. That 9mm handgun that she used to fire 3 rounds at Gannon, shell casing ejected out of that firearm each time she pulled the trigger. No shell casing was ever found in Gannon's room. She then took more deliberate action when she hid Gannon in a suitcase, first in her car, and then up north near the El Paso County, Douglas County line. GPS location data was used to track her locations or her movements. And it led to another grisly discovery up just in this area here. A board was found under a tree. That board had Gannon's blood on it. This is miles away from the Stauch family home, which is in the southeast part of the city, close to the airport. You'll learn through testimony that this board came from the Stauch family garage. Then took more deliberate and thoughtful action. She loaded the suitcase containing Gannon into the back of a rented van and drove to Florida. And that's the course of her travels from here to Florida. She rented a hotel room in Pensacola, Florida on February 4th, 2020. She drove a short distance from that hotel room, which is sort of by those blue angular marks on the map, up to where that red square is on the map. Drove a short distance from that hotel room, across a dark bridge that drives over a river that flows into the Gulf of Mexico. There she acted with determined purpose. Stopped that van. She hauled the suitcase out of the back of that van, drug it to the side of the road, hoisted it up over the railing, pushed it over the side, hoping that Gannon would never be found. 48 days later, 1,300 miles away from where Gannon was murdered, the search for answers in Gannon's remains finally ended on March 17, 2020, when the suitcase that came from that basement storage room, Gannon's remains, blankets, and the pillow were found by an unlucky bridge worker checking that bridge for safety. And imagine the shock that he felt when he realized what was inside that suitcase. Inside that suitcase, obviously Gannon's decomposing remains. Also, these 2 blankets and that pillow. Remember the pictures that I showed just a moment ago of Gannon in bed? These pictures were taken by this defendant on the morning of January 27, 2020. Sent them by text message to Gannon's father, Al, who was in Oklahoma for training. Take note of those blankets. Take note of the blankets that were recovered from that suitcase. The very same blankets and pillow that were in those pictures on January 27, 2020 were found 1,300 miles away with Gannon underneath that bridge. The defendant then intentionally came up with numerous different stories about what had happened. Gannon was missing, went to a friend's house and never returned. Gannon was kidnapped and she was raped by a guy named Eduardo. Gannon was kidnapped and she was raped, but this time by a guy named Quincy Brown. She went to look for a bike up near that Douglas County, El Paso County line. Gannon test rode that bike, crashed, and suffered a horrible head injury. And a guy named Quincy Brown takes Gannon, and now the defendant doesn't know where Gannon is. Cartels were somehow involved with Gannon's disappearance. And most cruelly, that Landon Hyatt, Gannon's mother, was involved with Gannon's disappearance. All of her actions were purposely designed by her to distance herself from what she did. Throw off investigators, buy her time, escape accountability for what she did to Gannon on January 27, 2020.
It's horrible. And I guess the thing of we have to determine if she's mental, what's the bar
if
here?
Because she's saying that she is pleading
insanity,
not guilty by reason of insanity. So the whole purpose of this is to prove that she was sane. So that's why, excuse me, he laid it out like that.
Yeah.
Like, personally, I think anybody who murders somebody is not sane.
I mean, there's a difference between
no sane person kills somebody.
Between being like mad insane, like barking at things and you're literally this shit's firing left and right out of your brain. And you are a danger to yourself and others. And there's calculated insane, where this is a good idea to them. This makes sense. So I'm going to do it. And when I'm caught at it, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say that. I'm going to do everything I can to not take the blame. That's not insanity. That's very calculated. That's evil.
Look at what she did to cover it up.
There's a difference
she drove
between
from Colorado to Florida.
Big difference between evil and insane. And this feels like it falls far more into the evil category than it does insane. And I'm not saying like possessed by the devil, evil, just evil. There's just evil people that are horrible human beings, and this is how they operate, and they live amongst us. Something like this, it's just, we clearly see what happened here. The evidence doesn't really lie yet. I mean, it's the way our systems works, and it's a good system. It's the best that we have. But it's silly at sometimes too, where, okay, now we're going to rehash everything about this person's guilt that's clearly there, and determine if they should go on.
I think she thinks in her head, if she's found guilty by reason of insanity, the rest of her life will be better than being found guilty of this murder,
which is not really the case. In I don't know what Florida law is. Some states are easier to get out of mental holds. Others, you're there for the rest of your life until you can be tried again.
And I think she's being tried in Colorado.
Okay.
It's Colorado Springs.
Okay.
I don't know why she went to Florida. I guess probably because it just all seems very calculated and planned.
Yeah.
The little boy did get in trouble the night before, and she videoed that, and the audio was just too much for me, and I did not want to air that as well because it was heartbreaking knowing what happened to him, and I think she lost control. She got mad, and she stabbed him 18 times, and if that wasn't enough, she shot him. I mean, it's just horrific what she did to him.
Insane or not, this person, at a minimum, should be locked away for the rest of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
At a minimum. At the most, I don't know why. What's the point of continuing to feed them if they did something as horrible as this, in my opinion? Yeah. But that's just me.
This is the Hidden Killers podcast with Tony Bruschi.
You want to follow any of the cases that we got for you, the complete list is in the episode description. And if you want to weigh in with your opinion on any of this, we'd love to hear from you. Got a phone number for that. It's 888-5-KILLER, 888-554-5537 to weigh in and share your thoughts. My name's Tony Bruschi. Stay with us.